companion in war and peace, and the proving ground for generations of fighter pilots. This Delta Wing interceptor has been the backbone of the IAF for as long as we can remember. From all the wars starting from 1965, 1971, the Kargil conflict of 1999, and the recent strikes against Pakistan, the Balakot strike and Operation Sindoor, the air dominance missions to ground attack, the MiG-21 has been there, often turning the tide in critical moments. For many young pilots, it was the first supersonic aircraft that they strapped into. And for the IAF, it represented the leap into jet age, a symbol of speed, agility, and raw power. Today, as we bid farewell to the stalwart, we are not just saying goodbye to a machine, we are celebrating a legacy of courage, sacrifice, innovation, and above all, the spirit of men and women who flew, maintained, and lived with the MiG-21. As we listen to the experiences of those who lived and breathed this machine, we will try to capture not just the history of this aircraft, but the story of an era that shaped the Indian Air Force. I quote Air Marshal P.C. Lal, who said, "The MiG-21 gave the IAF wings it never had before." Unquote. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Air Chief Marshal Anand Yashwant Tipnis, one of India's distinguished air chiefs who led the Indian Air Force from December 1998 to December 2001. The Air Chief began his illustrious career as a fighter pilot in 1960, and early on, he became part of India's first MiG-21 squadrons. He commanded the 23 Squadron and Air Force Station Gwalior. In 1999, as the Chief of Air Staff, he orchestrated Operation Safed Sagar, IAF's critical campaign during the Kargil conflict. Today, he joins us to reflect on the MiG-21, the jet that defined a generation of Indian pilots, including himself. We also have with us Group Captain Nanda Rajendran, and presently is the commanding officer of number 23 Squadron. He has flown the HPT-32, the Kirans, the MiG-21, the PC-7, and the MiG-21 Bison. Sir, can you share your earliest memories of flying the MiG-21? What made this aircraft unique, and what are the beautiful memories of your first solo?
When the MiG-21s came to us, the first aircraft that came was the Type 74. There were no trainers at that time. So the first solo that you went was on the MiG-21 itself. All that happened was that you were shown a circuit pattern on the Hunter aircraft. So you flew a Hunter, it trying to imitate the circuit pattern of a MiG-21, which is nothing like it. The difficulty was not only that there was no trainer, there was no simulator, but also that the entire cockpit, nothing was written in English, it was all in Russian. Oh. As for the instruments went, well, we were used to knots. Here suddenly we had changed from knots to kilometers per hour. That was what speed gave you. As far as your height was concerned, it was in meters and kilometers. So it was really getting used to it was quite difficult. So the first solo was in fact you were more lost until you came back and you didn't know how we actually managed it. Because also what happened, the MiG-21, we were all flying in space suits. Believe it or not, Yuri Gagarin, when he went up in Sputnik 1, had the same pressure suit and the pressure helmet for the first solo. You could hardly move your neck to one side or the other. Also, the forward visibility was bad because the nose was long. Also, the approach attitude was much higher, steeper. So it was quite an experience.
So how do you think the MiG-21 has shaped the fighter pilot ethos of the Indian Air Force, sir? What advice would you give the young pilots and enthusiasts around the world?
First of all, I would say that, the sight of the type of grooming that we got with the MiG-21, because it was meant for high altitude flying, but we started using for strike purpose. And I think it speaks tremendously of the Indian Air Force that we were able to do that. By no means the MiG-21 is designed for low flying because the visibility forward, sidewards is limited. The Indian Air Force, the way it adapted to low-level flying at night, was a remarkable achievement. So the adaptation of the Indian Air Force for this purpose was outstanding. So this is actually speaks highly on the adaptability of the leadership of the Air Force at the top and the adaptability of the pilots in the cockpit to have been able to do all this and think it's just a piece of cake.
What is your message to the Indian Air Force and the young pilots of the Air Force now that the MiG 21 rolls out of the skies?
First is remember, whatever the aircraft, whatever its capability, for you to exploit the capability aircraft and beyond, it is the pilot that counts. You have to be innovative. The MiG 21 taught us how to be innovative, to make do with what we have and produce results. The MiG 21 flew in conditions in which it was not meant for. It had less than what you wanted. Now, even if the economy has gone up, things have improved, the purse is a little more full than before, there will be always shortage of things. But remember, it is you as a pilot who has to find the solution and the leadership that has to make sure that the pilots get as much support as possible. So it's a two-way effort. But what you have to also find is that we have to find our own. There is no alternative to being Atmanirbhar. Atmanirbhar, not only in production, but in designing, and Atmanirbhar in tactics and strategy. And they will be wanting to, and that is what we have done. I think what we did in Ops Sindoor is the innovative capability of the Indian Air Force. I mean, the way that you have actually conducted those is the way that you have been groomed over the years. That you know that you have to find solutions. There will be always challenges that are never seen. There's always a first time to do something. And for that first time, you have to find a solution.
Like somebody said, if anybody can fly a MiG 21, he can fly any fighter in the world. So we have somebody from the past who flew the MiG 21, and now we have Rajendra to my left, who is presently flying the MiG 21, which moves out of the Air Force very soon. So, Rajendra, so how does it feel to be one of the last CEOs of a unit?
So it's really a proud moment, especially for Panthers, for being the swan song for MiG-21s. Panthers were the first squadron in the world to be equipped with the Saber Slayers, that is the Nats in 1960. Thereafter, we also had the honor of having achieved the first air-to-air kill in the Indian subcontinent in the jet age during the 1965 war. And now it's another distinction for the Panthers that we are the last MiG-21 operating squadron in its operation capacity.
So now that you're at the fag and there's just a few days left, so what all is happening in the squadron?
It's a lot of preparation. Fly past is one thing, but apart from the fly past, there are a lot of other preparations which are going on.
So will you be flying on the 26th of September?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay, fine. So tell me a little bit about what has been your take on the MiG-21? What has been your experience in a few lines?
So the MiG-21 has proudly served the nation for last 62 years. From being the most advanced fighters during the war of 1965 and 71, it has remained the vanguard of all military action by India. Even during Ops Sindoor, it was a legacy fighter. However, it was tasked for ORP duties and we were ready to defend the skies if the demand raised.
Okay, rapid fire round. Sir, the first word that comes to your mind when I say MiG-21?
Aircraft for all seasons and all jobs.
In one word, MiG-21 acceleration.
Force to reckon with.
Faster than you can go.
Your favorite sortie or type of mission on a MiG-21?
Too many of them.
So valley flying and valley attack.
If the MiG-21 could speak, what would it say to you today?
Man, it was a great pleasure flying with you. But I would say it was a greater pleasure flying with you, our fair lady.
So, if you could like to name the MiG, you would like to give it a nickname, something like a saber slayer or flying dagger, what would it be? What name would you give it?
I always called her my fair lady.
Falcon Slayer.
And describe the sound of the MiG-21. What does it make you do or feel?
Oh,
Sir, a sound of power.
Sound of power. All right. Combat or low-level dash? What do you prefer?
depending on the sortie, the mission, both are good.
Okay.
It's a combat and low level in case of valley.
Joining us from Jamnagar today on this podcast is Air Commodore Surendra Singh Tyagi. He joined the Indian Air Force in 1965 and he has amassed the maximum number of flying hours on this aircraft, which is a record of sorts. So, good afternoon, sir, and welcome to this podcast.
Good afternoon, Nitin.
So, my first question is to get back into history. Take us back to your first sorties in the MiG-21, maybe your first solo. What were your impressions of the MiG-21?
When I converted onto MiG-21 in 1968, I was on Hunters at that time. Obviously, since I was flying Hunters, not only the loyalty, one was only aware of the good performance of Hunters. So that was a aircraft very close to one's heart. So when I had to convert onto MiG-21, it was a different experience, but one had not really appreciated or monitored that what kind of a different machine that I was getting into. When you came on finals, actually the speeds are so high that one doesn't even realize that by the time you are even controlling and thinking, planning, you're already on ground landing. So MiG-21 first sortie itself, when you got airborne, the kick of the afterburner when we rolled, and thereafter one got airborne, it was entirely different feeling. I mean, you're changing the horizon, changing the total atmosphere of your flying career.
Right, sir. Sir, I've got a little tricky question for you. The MiG-21 pilots are supposed to be a breed apart. They are different than the other pilots. How would you describe this difference, this attitudinal difference, this persona difference that they have?
To start, I would say a MiG-21 pilot knew the limitation of his aircraft. We used to mark the map, hold the map on the side of canopy, carry out the navigation, look for number two's tail, check your speed, looking inside. And with the result, every demand on the pilot was so much. And MiG-21 pilots had to do that. And when they started doing that, that means you demanded from yourself so much more than was normal that you started becoming a little different than the other people. When we used to have inter-squadron gunnery meet, Jaguars had come, Mirages had come, and all these aircraft, MiG-23s, were far, far better. We participated with them in gunnery, in rockets, or in bombs. Actually, out of the 9 events which used to be generally part of the gunnery meet, MiG-21 won at least 4 to 5 every year regularly. And reason was that the pilot knew that whatever he has to achieve, it will be him who will achieve. And that's why I always felt that the people who flew MiGs were absolutely apart. Second thing, they were very honest. The MiG-21, since we didn't have anything to back us up or support, everything had to be by ourselves. That's why we were very honest to share whatever went wrong with us. We used to come and tell the other people, share with them so that they could be safe, they could rectify that.
Right, sir. Sir, the MiG-21 now goes into history very soon. What is your message to your friends, to the junior pilots of the Air Force, to the Indian Air Force in particular? What is your message to the Air Force?
Actually, MiG-21 era, when it gets over soon, maybe another fortnight, fact is that the new generation aircraft are entirely different. And so is the thinking and functioning of all the pilots who fly them. Factually, other than value system, which I can talk of, I cannot recommend anything to the younger lot. Only thing that I can say that, as I mentioned earlier, that a pilot, irrespective of which aircraft you're flying, how good the systems are, you have to excel to a level what you say is optimal. You must make it optimal plus. I think you will always excel, do well, and get better of any adversary, irrespective of what aircraft he is flying.
So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, and all the very best, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan. All the best.
Okay, we are now going to speak with Wing Commander Dinesh K. Nair from Bangalore. Now, Dinesh retired in 2014. He has worked extensively on the MiG-21 aircraft as a technical officer. What was your first impression of the Type 77 that you went to?
A MiG-21 is an engineer's delight, as much as it is a wonderful aircraft for the pilots to fly. And I used to love that. I must say that it was a formidable challenge to maintain and repair the MiG-21s. So what used to happen in a squadron is, whenever there was a minor leak somewhere in a pipeline, we had to open about 10 more pipelines of other systems and another 5 connectors. And in the process, when we clear one snag, we probably used to generate 5 more snags. And this was very challenging. In fact, there was never a dull moment in the squadron on this perspective. The good part of this experience is that our technicians had great hands-on exposure and became some of the finest aircraft maintenance engineers probably in the world. Another very interesting challenge which the MiG-21 space gave us was the manuals were all Russian books translated into English, and they were not really a great translation. We engineers in MiG-21 had huge liberty to do things, talking about technical things on the aeroplane, which possibly the designer of the aeroplane also wouldn't have fathomed. Because typically in aviation, all the aviation activities are highly controlled. So the freedom that we got in the MiG-21 was amazing. To put it all together, I would say that in a MiG-21 fleet, you can never get bored. So that probably describes my entire journey through the MiG fleet in the IAF.
Your feelings as the aircraft goes out of service?
I would say that some of the good times of the Air Force were during the MiG. Let's revisit the history more often so that all these stories from the past, which are more exciting probably, will always be remembered and will be incorporated into the modern doctrines and thinkings of the Air Force.
So thank you very much, Dinesh. Thank you very much for your time and coming on for this podcast. Joining us from Bangalore is none other than Air Marshal Saju Balakrishnan, the ex-CNC of Andaman and Nicobar Command. He's also commanded 32 Squadron as well as 32 Wing. During his service career, he has amassed almost 3,200 hours of flying, out of which 2,400 plus hours are on the MiG-21.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of this podcast.
First word that comes to your mind when I say MiG-21?
The one word which comes to my mind when someone mentions MiG-21 is a wild stallion.
Saju, let's get back into history and take us to the first time that you saw MiG-21 and flew it. What are your earlier experiences on the MiG-21?
So the first time that I ever saw a MiG-21 was during our familiarization visit to Air Force Station Lohigam, while we were all under trainees at National Defence Academy at Kharkavsla. The feeling was so exhilarating to see this sleek silver beauty lining up, accelerating down the runway and lifting off into the blue yonders. And the type of maneuvers that the display pilots put up was amazing. After the initial training and when we got to the aircraft, it was akin to what we experienced in the execution lines in NDA. We positioned ourselves at the beginning and then the horse went through all the hurdles which are there in front of it and you just clinged on for dear life. A similar feeling took place in my first few sorties. And you are clinging on earnest hope that you can cope up with it. So it took some time before you kept pace with this aircraft because it was such a quantum jump from the Kiran aircraft whose max speed was almost the lowest speed that you experienced with the MiG-21.
If I were to ask you to choose a sortie on the MiG-21, what kind of a sortie or a mission would you choose?
A low speed handling sortie, because that's where you can experience the full spectrum of its capability.
Describe the feeling, or when you hear the afterburner or the sound of the MiG-21, How do you feel?
The sound of MiG-21 is adrenaline pumping. It makes you want to say, let's kick some tires, light the fire, and pull some G.
What is the message that you have to the younger generation of pilots in the Air Force? And how would you say bye to the MiG 21?
My message goes not only out to the young pilots of Indian Air Force, but to the rest of the nation. As we bid adieu to a legendary platform which has served with distinction in more than 60 countries and flown millions of sorties, probably the highest number ever flown by any type of fighter aircraft in the world. It has inspired generations of fighter pilots, including me. I was fortunate to have flown more than 5,000 sorties on this particular platform. It served with great distinction in all the conflicts that it was part of, in the bulwark, in the defense of national aerospace. To the young generation of fighter pilots, I have only one thing to say. If you really wanted to know what seat of the pants flying is all about, where your individual skills mattered and not the systems that you have on board, then that MiG-21 symbolizes all that is and more. So a big salute to the legend, the MiG-21.
On this historic occasion, let us listen to the message from three former chiefs of the Indian Air Force, three stalwarts who share a deep and personal association with the legendary MiG-21.
I'm honored and proud to be amongst you today at the celebrations marking the end of the era of the MiG-21 that served the Indian Air Force over the last 62 years. Thousands of our Air Force professionals have shared an important part of their lives with the MiG-21, and I am proud to be one among them. We respectfully remember those who taught us the aircraft to learn and to respect it. I recall the camaraderie and memorable time that we nurtured under its wings, that reminded us often that it is the team that matters. We remember those who failed to return to their marshallers who saw them off on the tarmac, leaving the chairs and home empty so suddenly. We pay homage to them. The MiG-21 taught us, the Air Force, the core values of air warriors and humility. My warm regards to the families who have endured the rigors of our association with the MiG-21.
MiG-21 has always been my first love. And in the MiG-21s, the Type 77 Ultimate, the Ferrari of MiG-21s. I was lucky. We were about 3 or 4 people who were selected from pilot officer days to convert onto MiG-21s and fly them. It happened around 69, 70 or so. So I was lucky enough. By the time the 71 war came, I was day ops, 400-500 hours on type, and managed to take part in the war, which was a very great thing, both on the Eastern Front as well as the Western Front. We were in 30 Squadron. So we fought on both the fronts. Back to Command 26 Squadron, that was the BIZ aircraft. I was lucky enough to fly all 3 types, the BIZ, the Type 96 and the Type 77. Both in TAC Day as well as Ubereli. So I was lucky to fly all the 3 types. But the first love always remained the Type 77. What a beauty she was. Today is the day when I think we are bidding goodbye to one of the most wonderful aircraft. It had no aids, it had no nav aids, it had no high profile systems. We navigated by moving thumb display on the map and maybe a radio compass sometimes, depending on the SU most of the time. But most of the time, we depended on pilot skill to get us through various ferries and various other complicated situations. One of the great aircraft. It had got into disrepute a little bit, but what we must remember is whenever you had height in hand, and you had speed in hand, she was a wonderful aircraft to handle, right down to 0 speed. So many times in combat, both me and the opponent have both been at 0 speeds and merrily fighting away kachi. So in the end, I'd like to say that I was very lucky to have been able to fly this wonderful aircraft. And now it's a very sad day that I bid farewell to my first love amongst all the MiG-21, the Type 77 aircraft. You're bidding farewell to the MiG-21 in any case. An aircraft which has served yeoman service to the Air Force, been through 2 or 3 wars, and has been a wonderful aid in war fighting to the Indian Air Force. Thank you and Jai Hind.
I have been asked to speak about my love story with the MiG-21. Yes, it's a love story. We fell in love with the aircraft as soon as we reported in Tezpur. After OCU, we reported to 30 Squadron to do a MiG conversion. Sleek line, the simplicity of the aircraft, and not only that, we were surprised. The checks and procedures were, simpler than the aircraft we had flown previously, easier to learn. And yes, reliability. We got good flying. We got it in a concentrated dose. I can vouch for it for the 75 hours that I flew on the MiG-21 in Tezpur. Not once after I pressed the starter button did I come back. And this is the reliability that it delivered in the 71 war. The 71 war in the East, the air battle, I will clearly say, was won by the MiG-21. It is when the MiG-21 changed over from its air defense role and put on the M62 bombs and put so many craters on Kurmitola and Tezgaon that within 2 days of them changing over, that is around by 7th, they had stopped flying. This gave us a tremendous advantage. All our air effort could be dedicated towards close air support. It also gave us this advantage to do things that we couldn't have done without the air superiority, like the airlift over Meghna, which literally put 4 corps on the doors of Dhaka, the airdrop over Tangail, across the Padma River. All this was possible because we had total air superiority, and the total air superiority was delivered by the MiG-21. The rocket attack on the governor's house when the meeting was going on, the governor resigned. The civilian leadership of East Pakistan capitulated based on a MiG-21 strike on the governor's house in Dhaka. It was a pure pleasure to fly, and it proved itself so successfully in the air combat that it had with its peer of the Starfighter and managed to shoot down a couple of them. It has given the maximum flying to so many pilots of the Indian Air Force in its 62 years of service. And after the Hunter got phased out, it took on the role of, operational flying training. This is an aircraft in which the people jump from Kirans to almost double the threshold speed on a MiG-21. First time they were operating power controls after they had left Kiran. But still, this aircraft could carry out that load too. I have fond memories because I was lucky enough when I was commanding the squadron. We went into the Kargil war. And again, when it matters, what reliability. Srinagar, we had 100% serviceability for 50 days. We did night bombing. We could rely on the aircraft so much that, imagine if that particular time you had an emergency, what will happen to you? It is my tribute to the engineers who maintained this machine for so long. And we could fly it for 62 years in its various ways. Not that I would have loved to do it. Yes. But the fact is that during my end of my tenure, my aircraft, MiG-21 MF, also retired. So I wish it goodbye, farewell. There are a lot of pilots who will remember the aircraft with a very fond memory. And God bless and good luck. Thank you and Jai Hind.
From a guy in the cockpit to somebody who was in the cockpit, you can ask him a question.
So you have been the first year wherein the 23 Squadron converted from NATs to the MiG-21s. And today 23 Squadron is the last operating squadron of the type. So what would be your message for all the MiG-21 pilots?
Well, I'd like to tell you, first of all, well done, Panthers. You have brought glory to the MiG-21, just as 23 brought glory in its vampire, in its NAT days, and the glory continues. I'm very proud. Every Panther commander and every Panther has done the squadron proud. Well done.
Thank you.
The last MiG-21 has flown. Its place on the flight line has been taken by sleek new fighters, bristling with digital electronics, avionics, and precision weapons. As the sun sets on its service, one truth stands tall. The MiG-21 was just not an aircraft. It was a chapter of the Indian Air Force soul. Its sharp silhouette and supersonic roar will live on in the memories of those who flew it, those who maintained it, and those who watched it streak across the sky as a symbol of India's strength. The MiG-21 is not just aluminium, rivets, and jet fuel. It is stories, friendships, victories, and above all, courage. Old soldiers never die. They just fade away. And so it is with the MiG-21. She may fade away from our runways, but never from our hearts. Jai Hind.
For more than 6 decades, it carried the pride of the tricolour and the trust of every pilot who touched its controls. Now, on the 26th of September, 2025, the roar will fall silent. The MiG-21 will be remembered forever.